The desperate signal, the silence of deep space, was broken by the steady hum of machinery. Aboard monitoring station Nexus 9, Captain Elena Vasquez stood before the massive observation window, watching distant stars paint patterns across the void. For 3 years, she had commanded this remote outpost at the edge of human territory, listening for signals from the unknown regions beyond. Most days brought nothing but cosmic background radiation and the occasional pulsar ping. Today was different. "Captain," called Specialist Martinez from his station, his voice tight with excitement. "I'm picking up something on the deep range array. This isn't natural, ma'am." Alina turned from the window, her boots clicking against the metal floor as she approached the communications center. The main display showed waves of organized energy cascading across multiple frequencies, clearly artificial but unlike any human transmission pattern she had ever seen. "How long has it been broadcasting?" Alina asked, studying the complex waveforms dancing across her screens. "Started about 20 minutes ago," Martinez replied, adjusting his controls to clean up the signal. "Coming from the Helix Nebula, approximately 800 light-years from our position. The pattern suggests it's a wide-beam broadcast, designed to reach as far as possible." Alina felt her pulse quicken. In all the years humans had been monitoring deep space, they had never detected signs of intelligent alien life. If this signal was what it appeared to be, everything was about to change. "Wake up, Dr. Chen," she ordered. "Tell him we need him here immediately." Dr. Samuel Chen arrived within minutes, still pulling on his uniform jacket. As the station's xenolinguist, he had spent years preparing for this exact moment, studying theoretical alien communication models and developing translation protocols for languages that might not even exist. "Show me what you have," Chen said, settling into his workstation with practiced efficiency. Alina played back the recording while Chun's fingers flew across his keyboard, running the signal through dozens of analysis programs. Mathematical patterns emerged on his screen, followed by frequency mappings and structural breakdowns that meant nothing to Alina, but clearly excited the doctor. "This is definitely a communication signal," Chen announced after 30 minutes of intense analysis. "The mathematical foundation is sophisticated, using prime number sequences and geometric progressions as a translation matrix. Whoever sent this understands that mathematics is universal." "Can you decode it?" Alina asked. Chun's expression grew grave. "I think so, but you're not going to like what it says." For the next 2 hours, Chen worked steadily while Alina paced. The control room and Martinez monitored for additional signals. Finally, the doctor leaned back from his console and called for their attention. "I've got a preliminary translation," Chen said, his voice heavy with concern. "The message is a distress call, and it's desperate." He activated the main display, showing lines of translated text that made Elena's blood run cold. "To any who receive this transmission, we are the Zephyr of the Helix systems. For 1,000 years, we have hidden from the Void Callers, but our final sanctuary is discovered. Our worlds burn, our people flee, and our time grows short. We have heard whispers of the Iron-Blood Warriors from the third world of soul beings, so fierce that even the ancient machines fear them. If you are the humans, if the legends speak truth, we beg for your aid. We offer all we possess in exchange for survival. Our children cry out in the darkness, please help us." Silence filled the control room as the implications sank in. Alina stared at the message, trying to process what she was reading. An alien civilization was calling for help, and they had specifically asked for humans. "Doctor, who are these Void Callers?" Alina asked. Chen pulled up additional data from the signal. According to this, there's some kind of ancient machine. Intelligence. The Zephyr described them as devourers of stars that have been active for millions of years. They appear periodically, consume entire star systems, then vanish for centuries at a time, and they think humans can fight these things. Apparently, we have a reputation, Chen replied grimly. The signal contains references to humans as Deathworld warriors and mentions that other species consider Earth to be one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Alina activated her command console and opened a priority channel to Earth. The quantum entanglement communicator would deliver her message instantly across 800 light years, but she knew the response would trigger events that could reshape humanity's place in the universe. Fleet Command. This is Captain Vasquez, at Nexus 9, Priority Alpha Transmission. We have received what appears to be a genuine alien distress. Signal, request, immediate conference with Admiral Morrison. The response came within minutes. Admiral Rebecca Morrison's weathered face appeared on the communication screen, her grey eyes sharp with interest. Morrison had spent 40 years in the Terran Defense Forces, rising from a fighter pilot to commander of humanity's most powerful fleets. Captain Vasquez, I've reviewed your preliminary report. Are you certain this signal is authentic? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Chen has conducted extensive analysis. The mathematical complexity alone would be impossible to fake, and the linguistic patterns are consistent with natural language evolution. Admiral Morrison was quiet for a moment, considering the implications. Doctor, what can you tell me about these Zephyr? Chen stepped forward. Based on the signal data, they appear to be a peaceful species that has survived through evasion and hiding rather than military resistance. Their technology seems focused on preservation and sustainability rather than warfare. They've been running from these void callers for 1,000 years, and the enemy, the void callers, appear to be some kind of ancient automated system, possibly millions of years old. They consume matter from planets and stars, possibly to fuel their own expansion. The Zephyr described them as utterly relentless. Admiral Morrison leaned back in her chair. Captain, I want you to continue monitoring for additional signals. Dr. Chen, compile everything you can about both species. I have some decisions to make. After the connection ended, Alina found herself staring out at the stars again, but now they seemed different. Somewhere in that vast darkness, an alien species was fighting for survival against an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for eons, and they had called for help from humanity. 3 hours later, Admiral Morrison contacted Nexus 9 again. This time, her expression was determined. Captain Vasquez, I'm authorizing Operation Stellar Shield. We're going to help the Zephyr. Alina felt her heart skip. Ma'am, what kind of force are we talking about? The largest military deployment in human history. 200 warships, including 12 dreadnoughts and the new Titan-class battleship. Goliath, 50,000 Marines, 30,000 fleet personnel, and every piece of advanced technology we can spare. Admiral, the Helix Nebula is 800 light-years away. Even with our fastest ships, that's a 6-month journey. Morrison nodded grimly, which means we might already be too late. But if there's any chance of helping these people, we have to try. Besides, if these void callers are as dangerous as the Zephyr claim, they might eventually turn their attention to human space. The next 24 hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Alina watched in amazement as ship after ship began arriving. At the rally point near Nexus 9, massive dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace alongside sleek destroyers and bristling cruisers. Fighter carriers brought squadrons of the newest combat aircraft, while transport vessels carried enough supplies for a year-long campaign. Commander Jake Sullivan arrived aboard the Marine assault ship Anvil, known throughout the fleet as Reaper. For his deadly efficiency in combat, Sullivan was a tall, scarred veteran who had fought in every major conflict of the past decade. His 3rd Marine Division was considered the finest fighting force humanity had ever produced. Captain Vasquez, Sullivan said as he toured Nexus 9's facilities, "My boys are excited about this mission. We've been training for years, but we've never had the chance to prove ourselves against a real alien threat." Alina studied the Marine commander. "You understand that we have no idea what we're facing out there. These void callers have been destroying civilizations for millions of years." Sullivan grinned fiercely. "Ma'am, with respect, they've never faced humans before. We didn't become the dominant species on a death world by backing down from a fight." As the fleet assembled, Dr. Chen continued analyzing the Zephyr signal, discovering additional information buried in the transmission. The aliens had included star charts, technical specifications, and even recorded footage of void caller attacks. "Captain, you need to see this," Chen called, displaying the combat footage on the main screen. Alina watched in horror as massive mechanical constructs, each the size of a small moon, descended upon a beautiful blue-green world. The machines extended thousands of mechanical arms, stripping away the planet's atmosphere and crust with methodical precision. Within hours, a living world became a lifeless rock. "How many worlds have they destroyed?" Alina asked. "According to the Zephyr records, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They appear every few centuries, consume everything in a region of space, then move on to new hunting grounds." As the final ships arrived at the rally point, Admiral Morrison broadcast to the entire fleet, officers and crew of the Terran Expeditionary Force, "In 6 hours we will begin the longest military deployment in human history. We go to answer a call for help from a species we have never met, to fight an enemy we do not understand. But we go because it is right, and because the innocent deserve protection from those who would destroy them." The Admiral paused, her voice carrying across space to 200 ships and 80,000 personnel. "The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you threaten those under human protection. Let's show them why Earth is called a Alina stood on Nexus 9's observation deck, watching as the massive fleet began to glow with hyperspace energy. In moments, they would leap across 800 light-years to face an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy since before human civilization began. The stars seemed to hold their breath as reality bent around the human armada. With a flash of brilliant light, they vanished into hyperspace, racing toward their destiny in the Helix Nebula. Behind them, Alina continued monitoring the deep space channels, hoping to detect additional signals from the Zephyr, whatever the humans found when they arrived. She knew that humanity's place in the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of human isolation was ending. The age of the Iron-Blood warriors had begun. When Deathworlders arrived, the Terran Expeditionary Force dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helix Nebula, and the sight that greeted them would haunt every human present for the rest of their lives. Where the Zephyr star charts had shown a thriving system of 7 worlds, only 3 remained. The others had been reduced to asteroid fields, their matter stripped away by machines of incomprehensible size. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Goliath, staring at the tactical display in grim silence. Captain Marcus Rodriguez, the ship's commanding officer, approached with the latest sensor readings. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the inner system. Whatever's happening there, it's big. Morrison nodded, her jaw set with determination. Captain, take us in. All ships, battle formation Delta. Launch reconnaissance fighters. Lieutenant Nova Kim was among the first pilots to launch from the carrier Defiance. Her fighter, Calcine Stinger 7, streaked through space toward the heart of the system, where the surviving Zephyr worlds struggled against their ancient enemy. Stinger 7 to Fleet Command, Nova transmitted as she approached the inner planets. I'm seeing ... Dear God, these things are massive. Through her cockpit window, Nova stared at ships that defied comprehension. The Void Callers were geometric nightmares, each one a cube of dark metal 3 kilometers on a side. Thousands of mechanical arms extended from their hulls, some as large as human destroyers, methodically carving away pieces of the second planets. Surface, Fleet Command, I count 18 of the large constructs and hundreds of smaller harvester units. They're strip mining the planet in real time. Around the third planet, Nova could see the remnants of the Zephyr fleet. Their ships were beautiful, organic curves of silver and crystal that seemed to dance through space. But they were being systematically destroyed by the relentless mechanical precision of their enemies. A new voice crackled over the communication channel, speaking accented but clear English. Unknown vessels, this is Defense Commander Dissis of the Zephyr Remnant Fleet. Are you the Ironblood warriors from the third world of Sol? Admiral Morrison took over the communication personally. Commander, this is Admiral Rebecca Morrison of the Terran Defense Forces. We received your distress call. We're here to help. There was a long pause. Then Dissis replied, her voice filled with emotions that transcended species barriers. You came. The Deathworld warriors actually came to save us. Within hours, the human fleet had made contact with the surviving Zephyr forces. Ambassador Dissis came aboard the Goliath to brief the human command staff, and her appearance surprised everyone present. The Zephyr resembled tall, graceful humanoids with pale silver skin and large, luminous eyes. Dissis moved with fluid grace, but her posture spoke of exhaustion and desperation. Admiral Morrison, Dissis said as she entered the briefing room. I must confess that when we sent our plea, we did not truly believe anyone would answer. The Void Callers have ruled the galaxy's nightmares for so long that most species have forgotten. There might be hope. Tell us about them, Morrison requested. What exactly are we facing? Dissis activated a holographic display that showed the enemy in terrible detail. The Void Callers are ancient beyond measure. Our oldest records suggest they have been active for at least 10 million years. They are not alive as we understand life, but neither are they simple machines. They possess a collective intelligence that adapts and learns. Dr. Chen, who had arrived with the fleet, studied the tactical data. How do they reproduce? How do they expand their numbers? They convert matter, this is explained. Everything they consume becomes part of their structure. Planets, asteroids, even the gas from stars can be processed into new Void Caller units. This is why they are so feared. Every victory makes them stronger. Commander Sullivan leaned forward from his position at the table. What about their weaknesses? Every enemy has them. The Sis looked puzzled. Weaknesses. Commander, the Void Callers have destroyed thousands of civilizations. They adapt to every strategy, overcome every defense. The only option has been to run and hide. That's because none of those civilizations were human. Sullivan replied with a grin that made several Zephyr present step backward instinctively. Over the next few days, the human fleet studied the enemy while protecting the remaining Zephyr vessels. What they discovered both impressed and concerned them. The Voidcallers were indeed incredibly advanced, their technology operating on principles that human science was only beginning to understand. But they also had limitations. Captain Rodriguez made the first crucial observation during a tactical analysis session. "Admiral, look at their movement patterns. They're too perfect, too coordinated. Every Voidcaller unit moves in precisely calculated formations." "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "They're predictable. Their artificial intelligence is incredibly sophisticated, but it follows logical patterns. They've never had to adapt to truly chaotic opponents." Lieutenant Kim, who had been conducting reconnaissance flights for days, supported this theory. "Sir, I've been watching their response patterns. When I attack from unexpected angles or use erratic flight paths, their defensive systems seem to lag behind my movements." Admiral Morrison studied the combat reports carefully. "They're used to fighting civilizations that follow logical military doctrine. Defensive positions, organized retreats, strategic withdrawals. They've never faced humans." Commander Sullivan laughed grimly. "No alien has ever faced humans in real combat. They're about to learn why evolution on Earth required controlled aggression to survive." The battle began 3 days later when a new wave of Voidcaller reinforcements arrived in the system. Admiral Morrison watched as 60 more of the massive cubes dropped out of their strange hyperspace, adding to the overwhelming enemy numbers. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we make humanity's debut on the galactic stage. Let's make it memorable." The human fleet advanced in what appeared to be standard battle formation, but as they closed distance with the enemy, something unprecedented happened. Instead of maintaining organized lines, the human ships began to scatter into seemingly random attack patterns. Commander Vises watched from the Goliath's bridge in amazement. As human destroyers dove through Voidcaller formations at impossible angles, their captains ignoring every principle of safe space combat. Fighters swarmed around the massive enemy, cubes like angry insects, striking at weak points with suicidal courage. Admiral Vises gasped, "Your ships are breaking formation. This appears to be chaos." Morrison smiled fiercely. "Commander, chaos is how humans fight. We call it controlled aggression. Every captain out there is making independent decisions, adapting to local conditions, taking calculated risks that no computer could predict." The Voidcallers, for the first time in millions of years, were confused. Their targeting systems, designed to predict logical movement patterns, could not lock onto human ships that changed direction and speed according to individual pilot instincts rather than tactical doctrine. Lieutenant Kim dove her fighter directly at a Voidcaller cube, firing her weapons until the last possible second before pulling away in a maneuver that should have torn her ship apart. Her attack damaged one of the creature's harvesting arms, causing the first system failure the Voidcallers had experienced in centuries. "Stinger 7 to all fighters," Kim transmitted. "Target the joints where the arms connect. Their armor is weaker. Captain Rodriguez brought his dreadnought hammer into close range with another Voidcaller, his ship's massive plasma cannons tearing into the enemy's geometric hull. When the creature tried to respond with its own weapons, Rodriguez executed a combat maneuver that violated every principle of capital ship warfare, spinning his massive vessel like a fighter to avoid the return fire. But it was Commander Sullivan and his Marines who provided the greatest shock to the ancient enemy. Using specially modified assault shuttles, Sullivan led his troops directly into the interior of a damaged Voidcaller cube. "Remember, Marines," Sullivan broadcast as they approached the alien construct. "These things have been bullying peaceful civilizations for millions of years. Time to show them what happens when they pick on someone who fights back. The Marines fought their way through corridors of living metal, facing defensive drones that had been perfected over geological ages. But the Voidcaller systems had never encountered opponents who fought not just with weapons, but with desperate creativity and absolute refusal to surrender. Sergeant Maria Santos used explosives in ways that horrified the enemy's logical systems, creating chain reactions in critical systems. Corporal David Park modified his weapons on the battlefield, turning mining equipment found within the cube into improvised weapons. Private Lisa Wong discovered that the Voidcaller's internal sensors could be confused by reflecting surfaces, using broken metal as crude camouflage. Within hours, the Marine assault teams had disabled 3 cubes from within, something that no other species had ever accomplished. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human ships took terrible damage, with 7 destroyers and 2 cruisers lost to the overwhelming enemy firepower. But for every human vessel destroyed, the chaotic, unpredictable tactics of the Deathworld warriors disabled 5 Voidcaller units. As the final enemy cube withdrew into hyperspace, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. The Voidcallers, for the first time in their ancient existence, had been forced to retreat. Commander Thesist stood in the Goliath's observation lounge, staring out at the debris field where the battle had taken place. Admiral Morrison joined her, both women processing what had just occurred. They retreated, Dices said softly. In 1,000 years of war, I have never seen the Voidcallers withdraw from a battle. Morrison nodded grimly. They'll be back, but next time they'll be ready for human tactics. Will that make them harder to defeat? Morrison smiled, and Dices was surprised to realize that the expression was not entirely pleasant. Commander, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've developed tactics to counter every possible strategy, including our own. The Voidcallers may adapt to what they learned today, but will adapt faster. Over the following weeks, as human engineers helped the Zephyr rebuild their damaged worlds, and human doctors treated wounded aliens, word of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. The peaceful Zephyr had been saved by warriors from a distant Deathworld, and the legendary Voidcallers had been defeated in open combat. Dr. Chen, working with Zephyr scientists to establish better communication protocols, made a discovery that would reshape galactic politics. The universe was filled with species that had developed technology and civilization, but most were peaceful by nature. They had survived the Voidcaller threat through hiding and avoidance, never developing the aggressive instincts necessary for effective warfare. Humans were unique. Evolution on Earth had created a species capable of both cooperation and controlled violence, beings who could work together to build civilizations but also unite to destroy their enemies. As the Terran Expeditionary Force prepared to return to Earth, Admiral Morrison received communications from dozens of other species throughout the galaxy. Word of humanity's victory had spread faster than light, and suddenly every peaceful civilization wanted to know more about the Iron-Blood warriors who had ended the Voidcaller threat. Commander Thesis approached Morrison on the day of departure. Admiral, my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But we also understand that this is only the beginning. Other species will call for your help. Morrison looked out at the repaired Zephyr worlds, already showing signs of new life and growth. Commander, humans have a saying, freedom is not free. Someone has to stand guard against the darkness. Today, that someone is us. As the human fleet prepared to jump back to Earth, Lieutenant Kim transmitted a final message to her new Zephyr friends. Remember, you're not alone anymore. The galaxy has guardians now. The ships began to glow with hyperspace energy, preparing to carry news of humanity's first galactic victory back to the small blue world that had produced the most dangerous warriors the universe had ever seen. But in the depths of space, ancient intelligences that had slumbered for eons began to stir. The Void Callers had been the least of the galaxy's nightmares, and humanity's actions had attracted attention from things that made even the machines seem primitive. The Iron Blood Warriors had announced their presence to the universe. Now they would discover what else was waiting in the darkness between the stars.